Favorito to come to the stage. And he's going to talk about, what is it, Georgia? Georgia Underline. Been fighting there a long time, and I'm sure.
Do you want me manning up?
These are about, thank you so much, Jim. These are about events and legal cases that may impact your state. But before I start, I say, wow, I'm still overwhelmed by yesterday. I saw it as so many speakers and topics. I've been to a lot of conferences. I've never seen that many speakers and topics back to back that were just absolutely amazing. So I want to thank you for organizing this. It's just absolutely fantastic conference. Thank you so much. And also, from the speaker's perspective, I want to also thank the people who were just on the stage, Richard, Dale, and Carl, and they're doing so much stuff behind the stage and behind the scenes to help the speakers out. We really, really appreciate it. So I'm going to race into these slides as fast as I can because they're not quite as pretty as yesterday's slides. But you know who I am, you know our organization. So I want to just quickly get started with exactly how this went down in Georgia. There's so many things that might impact your state. So we started out with a law in Georgia in 2001 when this evaluation started. It said such voting systems shall be required to have an independent audit trail of each vote cast. They started a pilot program. There were 7 machines, and only one of them actually could meet the law. That was Aidan Gibbs' True Vote. They didn't let Avanti participate for some reason. Those were the only 2 things that actually were sort of verifiable back then. So they had a problem. They wanted to buy the global election system machines, which eventually became legal, but they had a problem. It didn't meet the law. So guess what they did? They changed the law to buy the machines. Unbelievable. Secretary Kathy Cox was a Democrat. She said that we needed these because there were 94,000 presidential undervotes, that it looks like. Richard exposed that yesterday as not being true. We did have 127,000 lost undervotes in the 2018 election. I talked to you about that yesterday. So one of the ways that they did this was they got support from the civic community groups by giving them educational money to educate the voters on the new machine. So people, groups like Legal Women Voters were our adversaries in this effort. So they were working on the other side. I wanted to show you the lobbyists, how they do this. This was very, very clever. So the lobbyist for Diebold was Louis Massey, the former Secretary of State, who happened to be Kathy Cox's boss. They were Democrats. Diebold acquired Global right about the time the contract was signed. I can't remember if it was right before or after. Louis Massey, the lobbyist, then goes out and he forms a partnership with a guy named Bruce Bowers, who was the son of his former Republican Attorney General, who was once also a Democrat. He kind of blew with the wind. But he then became a Republican. So you got the popular Democrat and a popular son of a popular Republican in a lobbying firm together. So they realized that Kathy Cox may not be secretary, and there might be a new secretary, and they happened to have hedged their bets that it might be a Republican. So Bruce Bowers became a fundamental, the Bowers family became very fundamental in getting the next secretary to get elected. That was Karen Handel. She was a Republican. She promised to fix all this stuff. She understood the issue as well as I do. Documented it in a report. And then completely flipped her position after taking $25,000 of money from the family and the partners of Massey and Bowers. So that's a little bit about how it went down. so I hit the wrong button. So, as soon as they put these machines in 2002, we had all kinds of problems. Test votes were certified in election results. They caught that error. 3,256 test votes in Cobb County. There were huge Republican upsets, you might remember, in the Senate and governor's race, but the down ballot races all trended towards Democrats. So Sean Hannity called this the earthquake in Georgia when Sonny Perdue upset Lori Barnes for the governor, and Max Cleland lost to Saxon Shambles. You might remember Max, he was a triple amputee who was a U.S. Senator. We found out that the election servers were never certified for the 2002 election. The machines were patched and not recertified. Professor Williams, who put the machines in, admitted this in deposition under oath in our original lawsuit that went to the Georgia Supreme Court. And the recertification was required by law. And we found the December 3 letter from Kathy Cox to Debo, President Bobby Rosevich, saying that they were still awaiting the notification of certification a month after conducting the election. The machines were in DeKalb County and Fulton were patched. That's enough to flip the election right there. That's two of the biggest counties in Georgia. And they're split pretty evenly. So from that time on, we had a ton of problems. We had lost votes. 2004 in Bibb County, the machines could not accumulate 200 votes. We lost 200 votes there. We had more test votes loaded into live election results. In 2008, we had a county election board member take the results home in a spreadsheet, bring them back, and order the Debo contractor to load them into the machine. John Brady's going to be telling you a little bit more about that later on today. Not that particular instance, but how that. The results changed the election. This was two Democrats who, for sheriff and county commissioner, were running essentially on Obama's coattails, and they were going to change the county power structure from Republican to Democrat. That could not happen, so the election board member, who was Republican, took those votes home, changed it. The next day, they went to bed thinking that they had won. The next morning, they got up and went in and found out that they had lost. We also had a wild situation in Cobb County, one of the biggest metro Atlanta counties, which the SPLOST, we had special purpose local option sales tax. There were two elections. We had 114 votes. One of them was decided by 114, but they had 285 blank voted ballots. Now, in the SPLOST, that's the only thing on the election. It's the only race. So we asked, why on earth would people not vote in that election? They would stand in line, register, drive to the poll, get their card, go to the machine, put it in the machine, and then still decide not to cast a vote at that time. That was the official position from Kennesaw State. That happened twice. Over $1 billion of taxes were assessed on those lost votes. We have done all kinds of legislative actions. I just want to tell you, I'm not going to go through all these, but we worked so hard in Georgia to stop this for 17 years. We went to the governor's policy director. We had bills. We had Republican bills and Democrat bills, and we had people who wouldn't agree on anything sponsor a bill. The closest we ever got in the legislature, we had a test audit bill passed in 2008, which they used the paper rolls of the IPO TSX and said, oh no, it's too cumbersome. We told them that, don't even bother doing the test. But they did it anyway. We tried to warn them that that was going to happen. The closest we ever got was an amendment that failed on the floor of the House in 2006 by 91 to 63. That amendment would have banned the DREs in the state of Georgia. We meet with all the Secretary of State candidates ahead of time, tell them, explain them all the issues. We have done so much work down there, but it has not really paid off. We work with all the legislators. We understand the understood barcode voting. Every member on our state commission voting system commission. Time after time, they would have a meeting. Dozens, literally hundreds of people get up and say, do not allow barcode voting. And they, legislators allowed it. We actually got that banned in the bill last year. We had some friends on the Senate Ethics Committee. They banned barcoded voting, but the bill failed. Then this year, the same people in the Ethics Committee that voted to ban barcode voting last year voted to let it go this year. It was amazing to see these same people switch their positions. So legal overview. We had originally filed a case in that it was a 13-count case in our Fulton County, which is the largest county in Georgia. A Superior Court. If any one of the 13 counts had been upheld, machines would have been kicked out. The court dismissed the case, and they made 17 conclusions that have no basis in fact or evidence in the case. We appealed to the Georgia Supreme Court. The Supreme Court refused to apply the legal standard of strict scrutiny to the constitutional right to vote and dismissed the case. That was the key decision that they made to get around the law, which the U.S. District Court ruled differently. And as you know, in 2017, we talked about the suits from yesterday. But right after the suit was filed in 2017, KSU rightful serves. That's our central election point. I'm going to talk to you more about that, because that's really, really key. So, I told you about our victory. We did get these banned. We got the DOEs banned, again, thanks to a lot to help from Maryland Marks and Coalition for Good Governance as well. But I want to go back to the single point of attack, and this is what may be coming to your state. The elections are programmed with, in Georgia, a central point of attack is done at Kennesaw State University, it used to be. So we found out in 2017, well, I'm jumping ahead of myself. So basically what this allows you to do is that you can program any voting machine in any county without physical access to the machine and without an internet connection on election day, because the machines get their preparation ballot definitions from machines that are connected to the internet. So yeah, they're not connected on the internet, not on election day, but yes, they were prepped on the internet. That's where all the problems come in. So this is a little diagram about what happened. And what we found out was in 2017 that preparation ballot building server had been exposed to the internet, was exposed to the internet. They said, they warned Merle King over and Michael Barnes that it was exposed in 2016, and in 2017 it was still exposed. And we found out that it had been exposed all the way back to 2004. So this has been wide open for any election, any voting machine, any county to program any election. If that happens, the malware can detect whether or not the machine is in election mode or in test mode, and it can count differently in test mode and election mode. So logic and accuracy testing really doesn't do anything. That's all been confirmed by multiple experts, even KSU's own experts, in court through depositions. So real quickly, Logan Lamb was the internet researcher who found out that these were exposed to the internet, and he found on the internet, just look at this stuff, it's incredible. The whole voter registration database, 6.7 million voters, current election databases, Windows executables that create election databases, PDFs containing the supervisor passwords, and training videos of how to update the county voting machine and insert your memory cards in there. So basically, it was everything that you needed to do to rig an election was exposed for 13 years to anyone on the internet who wanted to get to it. So that was when the Secretary of State at that time, Brian Kemp, found out about it. He said this was reckless behavior, inexcusable conduct, gross incompetence, and undeniable ineptitude. A day later, the Attorney General resigned from defending him, citing a conflict. And 3 days later, the Secretary of State's office, his legal counsel, produced a report saying that the destruction of the data at Kennesaw State after the lawsuits were filed by the coalition, that was standard procedure. Well, I'm a 40-year IT guy, and I know that's not standard procedure. So we came out with an audit report that you can get up on VoterGA News tab that said these deviations and oversights are so significant they render the SOS report as not credible. That was our conclusion in 2017 in our 14-page analysis that analyzed their 2-page overview report. The U.S. District Court completely confirmed our audit report when she said, given the entire course of events described here, the defendant's contention that the servers were simply repurposed and not intentionally destroyed or wiped is flatly not credible. That was the U.S. District Court telling the Secretary of State's office they are liars. And that was just one example. I don't have time to give you all the others.
What year was that?
That was this year. Her ruling was 2019. So we've got a couple of quick things I'm just going to wrap up here, and I wanted to mention a couple more things. So the lawsuit found out that so they closed, even though Kemp was very critical, he hires the guy, the operational director, who was responsible for that, and brings them into the Secretary of State's office. They use Merle King, the executive director, as the scapegoat, but the operational director for day-to-day operations is moved into the Secretary of State by Brian Kemp, the same person who you just railed about the problem. And then we find out in the lawsuit that they established a new procedure, but it's still connected to the internet because the people at home, they hire 3 contractors at home to build the ballots, send them through the internet to the public web server on the Secretary of State's office, and then that is taken on a memory stick and put into the election system by Michael Barnes, the same guy. This is unbelievable. Very quickly, I want to just give you a couple of court findings before I wrap up here with one more slide. And the Secretary of State, CIO, Merritt Beaver, we found out that he hired a group called Fortless, which is a very famous Bush-related security firm, to do an assessment. But the CIO orders them, don't look at anything regarding to elections. Just look for over here at our public web server. Then Beaver brags to the court. He says, penetration testing, we do that, and therefore we're covered. But he didn't say that Fortless penetrated the server and took complete control of it. Fortless found 22 security flaws in 2017. They fixed only 3 of them, and then they found 15 security flaws in the voter registration system. Didn't fix any of them. So that brings us to the current status of what's happening in Georgia. As you all know, Georgia got the purchase of Dominion ICX. These are unverifiable barcode voting systems. Those are embedded in the barcodes. Currently, this is what you'll be interested in. Two sets of plaintiffs are suing the Secretary of State's office. One group is Georgia's for verified voting. That's Donna Price, Donna Curley. And the Coalition of Good Governors with Marilyn Marks and some folks have a separate lawsuit that they're trying to accomplish the same thing. It's working kind of cool because they're double teaming the Secretary of State's office and they're getting hit on both sides of the face at the same time. So it's working pretty well. They're suing, we expect a ruling pretty soon that the judge will accept this complaint, and they were going to determine whether or not they're going to allow these barcode voting machines in the state of Georgia for the 2020 election. I don't know if we'll get a decision in time, though, to make a difference, but we're pretty encouraged by it. So that's where we are. I'm going to say if there's any time left for questions, I'm happy to answer them. Here's our information, how you can get in touch with us, OGA.org. Give me your email address if you want to get an email list. You can Facebook us, join us on Facebook, or follow me on Twitter. So thank you so much. I don't know what time frame it is.
I was reminded we should let you know this conference, in case you can't notice, is being filmed and live streamed. That you are here is implicit permission for us to accidentally or on purpose get your photo across the internet. Okay? We all understand that? And then we're going now into a Q&A period of about 10 minutes.
Jim, people sharing it is how folks find out to watch it. And even if you shared it yesterday, share it again because the link is different. So go to the National Voting Rights Task Force Conference page, find the live video and click the share button, copy the link and paste it on Twitter, whatever you can do.
That's on Facebook. Search for Voting Rights Task Force, and you'll see 3 pages with that kind of name. Pick the one that says conference, and there will be the posting for the live stream there. Let everybody know, because we want them to know. We want them to know.
Put it up on the screen. Use your facilities.
We can do that.
We'll continue with the Q&A here. Maybe Dale can find it. Go ahead, John.
Hey, John.
Thank you, Garland. And first off, I know you and me in the last few days have got to know each other better than we've been talking for 10 years and sharing information. And that's the beauty of having a conference like that we can meet people across the country who are frontliners. And that's what you are, and a lot of people here are out there being real activists because activists get involved. And one of the things that you and me were talking about, and I know it's going to be the theme of what I talk about and others, is this guy Merle King, and how big of a role he really played. Because I was telling you, he came into Arizona in 2007 because we were trying to get the databases, and he came in with a defense as an expert, and he claimed if these databases were released publicly, that there would be mayhem and chaos worldwide. It was the most craziest defense. It's a movie we made many years ago called Family Flood. But you know, you pointed out that the passwords Merle King had up on his site, and a lot of us believe he did that, had them there. And the same thing happened in North Carolina and other states because they can see, gee, somebody got a hold of my password and got in. It wasn't me. But when the reality, what we're seeing nationally is the roles of subcontractors, vendors, consultants who are involved in our election system. And we're seeing this state after state. I know that one thing that Lynn's going to go into is what's happening in North Carolina. I'll touch a little bit into it because I got a bigger perspective. But the passwords and Merle King and the role that he played, I just thought was phenomenal. You want to touch a little more about the insiders.
Thank you, John. That's a great point. So this, you don't make this kind of mistake in IT. I can tell you that from 40 years in the business. This was set up for plausible deniability of the Secretary of State's office. If you made these, like I said yesterday, if you made these kinds of mistakes, Ben and I were in IT, we'd be on the street in a minute. Maybe on the second mistake. It just doesn't happen. It has to be intentional. Merle King knew it. Michael Barnes knows it. It had to be plausible deniability. The system was wide open for 15 years, ever since it was set up. So it's not only plausible deniability for the Secretary of State's office, it's plausible deniability for the people in Kansas State. because all they have to do is set the election up so someone else can rig it from anywhere in the world. It could be 5 miles down the road or somewhere else. Anybody could rig any election in any voting machine in any county in the state of Georgia for 17 years. There's some very, very suspicious elections that we haven't even talked about. But yeah, so it had to be intentional. John, thank you for that question. I really appreciate it. I appreciate all you're doing with Valley Energy. We're going to hear from John later on that.
Your detailed information is wonderful. But I've heard, of course, about the Stacey Abrams lawsuit and the Greg Palast lawsuit, and the statistic that was bandied about is that over 300,000 minority registrations were purged. How does your information connect to what we hear about these two lawsuits? I just got an email from Greg Palast asking for money for his lawsuits.
Yeah, so Greg and Verified, which is Stacey's organization, they work essentially a different issue from VoterGA. They are working the voter suppression issue. VoterGA doesn't work the voter suppression issue. The reason we don't work that issue is because you can flip an entire election a whole heck of a lot easier than you can go around and suppress votes. So we're focused only on the fact of flipping entire elections. Georgia has the most vulnerable system in the entire country, and they will still have the most vulnerable system even if they implement what they're planning on doing. So that's why we we're not connected with that, with voter suppression. Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Garland, thank you so much for everything you're doing. I really enjoyed hearing about the detailed process that you've gone through in order to figure out what's going wrong without much conversation, right? We did a survey in Central California of why people register but don't vote. Low voters are 0 to 2 in the last 5 elections. And some of the things we were looking at was psychological in nature, motivation. Why do people vote or don't vote? And how do they feel about the whole process? One of the things we ran into, particularly with young people who have grown up with hanging chads, is a feeling of hopelessness and helplessness and desperation. And so when we educate people about what's wrong with the system, we run a risk of also discouraging people from voting. So those of us who want to publicize on Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn and really educate people about what we need to be looking out for, we're also a little concerned about the message we're sending to young people about the hopelessness and helplessness of voting. Could you address that, please?
That's a great question. First of all, you are right. I've been working this issue for 17 years with no compensation whatsoever. This is an all-volunteer organization. Nobody makes a penny. What money we raise goes straight into lawsuits and helping that kind of thing. You raise a really difficult question, and I think John Berkeley is going to address that this afternoon because we were talking about this at the house. But how do you raise these issues without discouraging people from voting? I'm telling you the truth, I'm pretty discouraged. I don't get excited about voting myself. In fact, I'm thinking about not even voting. But I honestly don't have an answer for that question. We tried to tell the election officials that we want to, I know John's going to tell you this a little later, they want to encourage people to vote by, and so we kind of reverse it and say, how can we make these systems better? And John's very good at that, so I think he'll probably address that a little bit better this afternoon. I unfortunately have been probably doing the opposite. I've been exposing the problem and not really being as concerned about whether it discourages people from voting, because I'm so discouraged. But so I think the answer would be to reverse it and say, okay, how can we help you, Mr. Election Official or Secretary of State, to get more people to vote? And if so, can you, what the issue is, they don't trust the machine, they don't trust the votes. So how can you improve your process to make it more auditable, more verifiable? So that would be my suggestion.
We we really had to think this through because we coupled the study with an intervention. And so one of the things that we did, just as a suggestion, was just to tell people that some of the folks who are making this election system more problematic are the ones who vote every single time. And when we don't vote, we can be darn sure that even when we do an audit, that there won't be enough to show if everybody doesn't participate. So we continue to participate and vote from our hearts, knowing that there are problems, but without our voice being there, then we have nothing to show about what we really want to happen as an election result.
I can answer your question a little bit, because I've been at it from both sides of the fence.
Am I gonna mic?
Okay, I'll repeat myself. Is it on? I can answer your question, how to get people to vote, because I've been at it from both sides of the fence. As a poll worker and as a disabled voting rights advocate. What you can do is, if they're not sure who to vote for on people, ask them if they want to vote for ballot measures, because they don't have to fill out the whole ballot. They can vote on a ballot measure, or I'm using the example, vote on hypothetically dog catcher. They don't have to vote for everything. And that's what people forget to tell younger people. As long as you vote for one thing on the ballot, it counts as your interest. I mean, you may want them to vote for people, but this is what I tell people. If they're not, if they don't know who to vote for people, vote for at least one ballot measure, yay or nay, or something, just to show that you're interested, you won't be taken off the roll in states. Vote for something simple that you know about. You don't necessarily have to vote for a person.
I'd like, I think, I want to make an incident not to get lost in history, you know what I mean? You mentioned that.
Closest to the mic.
I'm sorry. Could you mention the incident in Macon in 2002?
Oh, yes, thank you for mentioning. This gentleman is amazing. He said, didn't you have some poll books and machines stolen in a hotel in Georgia? And I said, yeah, that was in Macon in 2004. We have had 3 thefts of poll books and voting machines in 3 different cases. All poll books in all 3 cases, voting machines in at least 1. So, and once you get control of that, you can do a lot of stuff. So that's another thing to look out for. What can you do once they've actually stolen the equipment? So with that, I have the feeling I'm out of time. I'm sorry, you don't have any more questions. I just want to show you my 8-cent ballot marking